Hello friends, Doug here from 2 Plus Tough. Boom, there we go, transition. So, a little over a week ago, my computer started to act really funny, and then it just had a complete meltdown. I was using an older PC, I built it just before the pandemic started, and everything just went haywire on it. Just interactivity stopped, it started like glitching out and freezing, and I looked inside and there was just some, damage done to the PC. Anyway, so I had to get a new computer, or rather switch it all over to my laptop, which does work and is going to work perfectly for editing and stuff like that. I've been editing quite a bit on the go. And so I had to basically just dismantle my entire workstation and then rebuild it in a way that suits the laptop versus the tower and the dual screens. So anyway, that's kind of what I've been doing here lately, and it has been an absolute cluster. So I've been trying to basically try out as much stuff as I can to get it working, and at some point you just got to actually jump and go live. So yeah, this is what I am seeing. I would love it if anyone who is watching, if you could just tell me if you see and hear me okay. You should be able to hear me and then some music in the background at sort of a medium volume. If you could just pop in, let me know. I have my chat here. But to continue with testing things, let me show you what else I got going on here, because I got a brand new setup for my downward cam. Still a work in progress because I have some more parts coming in tonight. But let's see. Essentially, it'll look a bit like this. Glop Monster, I love it. All good, so you can hear me and you hear the music. The Lord of Age of Sigmar Law, yeah, that's me. I'm the law. That's me. So yes, basically like this. I'm getting a mount so that I can get my laptop stand out of the way, but basically it's just going to lift it off the desk like 8 more inches up to kind of give me a better angle. And then my workspace here will be completely free. So, can see and hear you just fine. Okay, sweet. And can you hear the music? The one problem I had before, I did a few test recordings and stuff like that. The big issue that I had was that either the music would come out at a deafening volume, or it would be linked to the monitoring feature of my earbuds, and so like if I had to turn it down to not blow my eardrums out, it would become imperceptible to you guys. So I don't know. That's why I'm doing that. I'm like, man, if we can't do 90s grunge but lo-fi, what are we even doing here? How are we going to paint a single thing? Music is playing as well. Thank you so much. So what I got here, while we're just playing around, I'm just gonna every once in a while be jumping between scenes. Sounds like a creep by Radiohead. Yes, perfect. That's exactly what it should sound like. And if you can just faintly hear it so that you think you're crazy for hearing it, that's the exact volume I want. Let's see. So while I just grab my paints here, like I said, I'm just doing some dry brushing while I'm playing around with the settings here. But this is a whole bunch of Nords for... Got the paint. Whole bunch of Nords for Conquest. I have been in furious paint mode, trying to basically get a table battle report stuff done, because at the end of February, they're going to drop the new version of First Blood, which if you are not familiar... I can back this out just a little bit. Once I get rid of that obnoxious looking desk stand thing, I can have kind of a wider field of view. Anyway, and with an emphasis on making the game scalable, like for small tables. And just past my monitor here, I have a 2x2 that I have always wanted to just play games on. Like I've done a few battle reports. I did one for Fallout Wasteland Warfare that I really enjoyed. And I intend to do more, but I was really hampered, I'll say hampered, by the angles I could get, because I kind of have to do it somewhat in the corner in my office, because the window here is just so oppressive with the light that it becomes very difficult to work with. I don't know. I feel like if you've ever watched like a really good battle report, I want you to know they are in the darkest dungeons. Like, I have no doubt that mini wargaming is a beautiful place, beautiful location that's well taken care of. I also know that there's got to be some dark dungeons in there, because controlling light for a battle report with so many angles and stuff is a chore. I only bring them up because they're the most prolific battle report channel that I personally know of. But point stands, like, getting a full table ready that can also be seen from most angles is a pain. Now, I just typically do a little light dry brush. Well, I know it doesn't look very light from that point, but basically it gives me something that I can use contrast paints on to block out colors, and then I come back with a layer paint. It's kind of how I've been painting these dudes. By these dudes, I mean this and the 24 Valkyrie ladies who I just finished, but yeah. Good morning. Rest here, weary traveler. Type music with Toad Sorcerer. Yes, exactly. Sir Strummenfish, good morning. Good morning to you. You're just chilling. I'm hoping with this setup, I can do a lot more streaming. I don't know about you guys, like, how many things in your life are holding on for dear life, and you just can't mentally bring yourself to fix them until you, like, have the capacity? Usually that's stuff like getting oil changes or, you know, whatever. It's just like, I just can't deal with that today kind of a feeling. It's kind of how I felt about my PC. I knew it was kind of on the way out. A couple months ago, my wife invested in a new computer, and we kind of have a trickle-down policy. So I got this nice Mac, her oldie, and it has been a blast to work with. I just didn't take the time because some of the stuff like the encoder software and some of the stuff that lets some of the background music and audio show up as a channel that you can manipulate, like some of those softwares are third party and cost a little bit of money. So, you know, it was a transition. It was going to take time. I knew it. So I waited until it was foisted upon me and then lost my cool. like an adult. What system I've never joined these streams live, but I'm here for this. Hey! Thank you so much. Well, thank you for popping in. I've just been doing this is just a little quick demo-y one because I am trying to get some stuff painted up and my system's dialed in, because at like an hour and 15, I'm actually recording a podcast with my buddy Dan. We're talking Horus Heresy. If you guys don't watch or follow my channel, please consider. But if you like Horus Heresy from Warhammer fame, my buddy and Dan and I, we do a podcast called The Emperor Protects. There is no fluff, no filler. I'm not trying to sell you anything. They're basically just videos that are like, we read the book so you don't have to. So we just hop in, we ask each other how we're doing, see if there's any cool hobby stuff, updates, and then just talk books. Lately we have been really going through the short stories, because so much of the heresy is short stories. You know, like the big events, they can't cover them all in books, or novels rather. So some of the character fates are kind of left to side story business or short story business. So we've been hacking through those. As a spoiler, mine for this episode is Immortal Duty by Nick Kime, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite writers and someone that I am trying to emulate as I practice the art of literature. I have a great coach in my wife. She's a wonderful thinker. She got a degree in creative writing. She's a full-time writer now, but she also writes romance, and so sometimes, like, you know, she has to balance spicy scenes and dialogue, whereas like for us it's action and dialogue, right? How do we move things forward but also have them be satisfying to a different audience? So I've been reading a lot of Black Library short stories just to kind of get into the groove of like, how do you guys pivot between subjects and stuff like that? So it's been great as I've been reading more and more. Nick Kime just really shows up as one of my faves. Josh Reynolds was still the MVP for me, but he left. That's all right. Let's see. Error. Please use a keyframe frequency of 4 seconds or less. Probably cannot do that while I am streaming, but let's see. Keyframe. And you guys can still see and hear me okay? Okay. It's giving me a warning message about my keyframe rate, and I'm like, I think it's kind of oscillating because it doesn't know what to do with me. Let's see. I'm doing the same but with an airbrush. Sweet. What system are these for? These are for Conquest, Last Argument of Kings. These are my Nord army. And in that game, Nords are like basically it is the traditional Viking mythos. You got Asgard, Odin, Loki, all those kinds of things. But in Conquest, those events were literal. They're just interpretations of a interaction with an alien species. It's like if Ancient Aliens was real and way cooler than just being, I don't know, just being anti every other culture on Earth. What if it wasn't offensive but was actually really, really cool? It's basically that. So they came down and they messed with a bunch of us genetically to turn us into basically like a living organic defense system. And that did not pan out well for them because they were attacked before the defense system was totally ready. And so what we see now as like monsters and trolls and stuff like that are basically just genetic hiccups of the meddling that this alien race did to a whole bunch of Vikings. But to them, it is living proof of their deity, which I always thought was a really interesting idea. Like how hard would it be from their perspective to stop believing in the gods if their evidence walks around with you? Still all good on my end. Okay. Well, I will figure out the frame rate thing on my end then after the stream. YouTube's warnings, if you guys, I'm sure most of you are not content creators yourselves in terms of streaming and stuff like that, but on the creator end, YouTube has no chill. All of their error messages, even if it's a thing that doesn't shut down your stream, it's like, I always liken it to, there's an episode of Futurama where Bender gets a downgrade. He's hanging out, he meets like a water-powered robot. She has like a water fountain or a water wheel in her chest, and if the water ever stops, she dies. And she just starts screaming like, oh my god, I want to live! Every time she goes without water for 5 seconds. It's that kind of intensity. Your stream's gonna fail, everyone's gonna laugh at you. It's this massive, huge icon that's like, error. So you never quite know, like, what kind of error? Is this like the everything's destroyed, all is lost moment error? Or is this the run-of-the-mill, you could do better next time kind of error? What is your main faction? Slaves to Darkness? Question mark. Actually, my main faction at the moment is Nurgle. I love Mortal Chaos stuff. I always have. Their new troops, the Rot Swords, really, really embody what I wanted to create. And so I jumped back into Maggotkin with a very different emphasis than what I was doing before. Last time I was really going for the sea theme. I had a lot of the Puscoil Blightlords. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to do my Haunted Circus with the red and the yellow that I did for a video at one point. And I am going to change the bases though, because I did the bases like in a red earth kind of thing because I wanted them to look very John Blanchy, and he uses a lot of reds for the earth. That's kind of how he does. But as a model, they just don't pop off the base because they already have so much red. So I'm gonna just mute it down to being like a darkened brown kind of earth. Just, it'll still have a little red pop through, of course, but something to kind of make them not compete for eye attention, you know? One packet out of 1 million was lost. Error. Exactly. Exactly right. We don't want you to freak out, but at some point, 10 minutes ago, you were one slide behind, and that might have been the slide that made the sale, mon frere. I just want you to know this might all be a huge waste of time. Everything you're working to achieve might be for nothing. Cool. YouTube and exits the chat. Some of these Huskarls are the ones with the big old chunky shields. Some of them are a little bit difficult to paint because of the way the arm is posed, but I'm mainly just using this fat brush to kind of hammer out the big sides, you know? And it's a bright warm gray, so as it dries it'll dull quite a bit so it doesn't look too garish. And I can see all the details that matter. I don't know how this can show up here. Let me put up my camera. There we go. This is called a Bearsark. They are essentially elite warriors who... They're like Chosen, okay? Chaos Chosen. But they cover themselves like in all the artifacts of bears that they hunt. So he's got like rib cages all across his back. He's got skulls for his shoulder pauldrons. I don't know. These guys are just like made of all kinds of badass. I saw them and I was like, I want that. And the problem is that Nords are an army where there are so many cool monsters. You know, it's that Viking myth. So we got Hades hounds. We got giants, the Jotnir. We got all kinds of cool stuff. But I'm a sucker for infantry. I always have been, which is also like the bane of a hobbyist existence, is picking an army that is just, you find out later, it's like, oh man, it's mostly infantry. Son of a god. And then I'd kind of do that for every army. Because I always find it's almost always the infantry models that draw me to a faction. When I was first playing Warhammer many, many moons ago, I was given a wonderful piece of advice when I was trying to decide like what faction to do. You know, I went to the local store as a kid. There were always people nice enough to loan me an army and let me play with them and stuff like that. But when I started to think about getting my own, as I'm circling back in just after college days, because I need a hobby and my wife's going insane, someone told me the right faction to pick is whichever one has, to you, the coolest baseline dudes, because that's who you're going to spend the most time painting. Now, this was back in the day of, like, just coming out of fantasy battles. You know, 40K still had, like, their org charts for troops and stuff like that. And his point was, you know, for a lot of those games back then, particularly where fantasy had, like, percentages, like half your list has to be blank. There were just a lot of basic troops. And so depending on the army you chose to meet that rule requirement, like, it could just be a lot of dudes. You're signing up for a lot. And I always dug that. So then as I look at factions from other games, which I've carried on, I think that was specifically regarding 40K. And I was like, should I play Dark Elves or whatever, you know, Drukhari? And that was his advice, and I loved it. What made you want to pick Nords for First Blood? So Nords are actually my main army in Last Argument of Kings. I really like the characters, a lot of the themes. Their campaign book that recently came out is phenomenal. Basically, to give an over-abbreviated version, Isindril, the giant tree of life, was actually like an alien fortress it just looked like a tree to people who grew up in the Nord culture. Because again, all that stuff's real. Just throwing it out there. And an evil army came and burned Yggdrasil, and so now the Nords are essentially living their post-apocalyptic life, because all of their mythos came true and they failed. So these guys are all... Each one of these dudes is like Viking Mad Max. I was like, that's a pretty tough premise to pass up willy-nilly. But also the fact that the campaign book, when I was really looking for an army, hooked me on an idea, was that the faction that burned Yggdrasil, they have their own side quest, but they end up being the undead faction of the setting now, the Old Dominion. So the campaign box is of one of the very few Nord researchers. She's like trying to figure out, the history of her people and whatnot. And comes face to face with the dude who burned down her home, her gods, her all that stuff, because he's undead. He's just chilling on ice. And I don't know, there was just like the dynamics of that scene, everything was just so cool. The idea that they are defined by a past they just cannot fathom. Nor would they be interested in it if you tried to, right? Most of them are pretty rough and tumble. They're not known for smarts. They're not known for disciplined magic. They have magic, of course, but, they don't have a Teclis. So, those are definitely my biggest reasons. I love when a theme of a faction captures me as much as the models do, and this idea of like still having to deal with your past and the irony of just not understanding it at the same time. Like every day, all the monsters you hang out with, all those trolls and stuff that you bring aboard your ships that you hate, that gross you out, like all of that stuff is just a reminder constantly of like essentially the life that was stolen from your people by this alien race, but you don't understand that, right? It's all hijacked. So, anyway, so my biggest problem was finding a enemy for them, because I knew that I wanted to have First Bloods and Nords. And sitting on my shelf was the starter set of the Euroni, the last one that came out, the 2-player that had the Wadroon, and I was doing giveaways and no one ever... I can't remember at the time. There was one set that no one ever actually called in for. Like, I announced it and tried to email them and it never got anything back. They must have thought I was spam. I don't remember if it was that one or not. But basically there was a Euroni set sitting there and I was like, oh, I could paint these guys. So I started doing that. And I did enjoy them. I don't think I would want them as a full army. But they are astounding models. Like, do you have an army? This is a question for the chat. Do you have an army that, like, if you only liked a few more of the models, you'd be all in? But as is, you just kind of like a smattering. And so it's just not there. You're not into it yet enough. I'm kind of that way with the Euroni, which is like, some of the models slap. I'm not big into either anime or, like, I don't have a firm grasp of, like, Eastern traditions as far as, like, their depictions of monsters and demons. I know some of the rough, things that they're calling on when they make those designs, but not anything substantial. So some of the sculpts, I'm just like, I want that guy. That guy's cool. That's an Oni design. I want him. And then others, like, they just previewed the little demon dudes, which are like little nightmare fuel goblins. Kind of think Nurglings, but more mean looking. They get big too. They like stock up and basically become like 8 Nurglings in a trench coat. Those guys are awesome. Let's see. Nord background is pretty sick. I finally got Conquest models when they dropped the city-states. Ancient Greek cyborgs are the coolest. Agreed. And that is probably going to be my next investment. I have the Euroni. I want to do demos with them. That was definitely a choice of convenience. I painted 100 Kingdoms before. I enjoyed it, I just don't want to do it twice. But I painted those for a friend. And so I was like, I want to do something a little bit different, but I kind of like... I don't know. Human factions tend to stick out for me just because I can kind of get in the minds of the characters a little bit better. Also, like I said, I tend to pick based on infantry, and they got some cool dudes, these homies. Wait, what? Ancient Greek cyborgs. Yes, so imagine if you're familiar, Cuddy Flam 84, with Jason and the Argonauts, like the old movie where everything was like stop animation and mechanical automatons, and like it's like that kind of stuff. So they do have essentially clockwork soldier men that they mechanize and imbue with magic. It's pretty sweet. They have quite a few like constructs. And Minotaurs are their religious guard, which is pretty cool. But yes, if this army is all Vikings... Oh, I was like, that's my favorite. Yes, okay. I didn't know if that was interest. Like, wait, what? Because every time I talk about Conquest, there's always someone who's never heard of it before, and they're like, what the hell is that? You know, I mean, in a good way of like interest of like, what do you mean? What do you mean the high elves are actually vampire alien archetypes? That's weird. I love it. I have different smaller brushes. I'll come back in here. I'm probably just going to grab these last four and do a few more transitions to make sure everything is working. Actually, there was one I wanted to do since you guys are helping me so much. Let me... I'm just pulling up a pic here. And let's see if this transition works. Hey! Okay, it looks like it should. Seeing the meme, hopefully. I love it. And then we should go. Sweet. Yes, I know there's a giant camera in my way. That's what the part I have coming from Amazon is gonna do. It's gonna lift the laptop so it's a little bit above me, but generally speaking, I have this out of my way when I'm recording, so. Awesome. Can confirm meme insight. Okay. In Conquest, Old Dominion has some absolutely great models, but I don't care for the army as a whole. I tend to be the same way. For some reason, the Inquisitor models just never gripped me. I look at them and I'm like, but why? I mean, there's a lot of killer models. I love the dudes who are like what are they called? Centurions? Is that the word I'm trying to look for? Decked out in battle plate. Like, they look killer. And then there's some I'm like, meh. I feel kind of the same way about, I feel actually the inverse of how I normally feel about armies with the Weaver Courts, which is, I don't care for the basic bowmen. Like, their basic infantry that everybody has access to. That doesn't really hinder me, because they all generally have access to, like, the really cool looking cav and stuff like that. But I'm like, but it's a Wood Elf army, or archetype army, that I'm not a big fan of, like the guys who shoot arrows. I'm like, that's That's a weird place to be. But I love the new kit they put out, the Morwen. It's like basically like this alien race came and instead of working on people, a different division of them was like, why would you use them? They're monkeys. And then they went to insects and did kind of the same thing. Yeah, sometimes the autofocus just really doesn't like the black primer, so I have to kind of like turn it off and on again. Then again, I'm holding a dark object in front of a shiny object. It probably thinks it should be focusing on the stuff in the back. Okay. Has a point. Alright, friends. Thank you so much for hanging out and just testing this with me. Like I said, in a little under an hour, I'm doing a stream with my buddy Dan. Let me come back to me. And we are doing the Emperor Protects podcast. So I hope that you will enjoy and watch that with me. Let me get this camera out of my face. But thank you for testing my setup with me. Everything seems to be working. The only thing I have yet to try is just straight recording. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Like recording when I have another person's audio coming in, balancing that kind of stuff. So anyway, I know it's been a little bit quiet because everything got shaken up real hard with the computer meltdown. But this coming week, I have stuff for the newest Conquest narrative campaign, which is Wadroon versus Euroni. And then I have a couple more compilations. This is me kind of getting back on my feet, right? It's already Thursday of this week. So next week, look forward to things being a bit more regular. But once I have this, I should be able to crank out an entire week's worth of content, and I'll fix everything else on my end. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. It's been really great just chatting about models and stuff like that. So I'll see you all very soon. Happy wargaming, friends.